biggest funk. Thoughts deep, boys steeped in the depths that he sunk. Big stress, depressed in the middle of fall. Sky gray, I late in the thick of it all. I wonder, how long can a human survive just staying alive or carrying the rest of the tribe? Waiting for the day to arrive or struggling dies, and I be doing way, way more than getting by. So why? Cop myself a cup of coffee, sipping water in it softly, cleansing me of stress I hold. Hey, cop myself a cup of coffee, sipping water in it softly, cleansing me of stress I hold. Eyes realize life is so much more than just living a day. Every day I can sit and reflect and breathe and connect to myself and all that I've been given. See, giving up is not an option. So while I'm looking at gray skies, I'll be adopting a new way to deal with a test. Lord, relieve me of stress. The rain be looking like when blessings drop in. And so I got myself a cup of coffee, sipping water in it softly, cleansing me of stress I hold. Coffee, sipping water in it softly, cleansing me of stress I hold. Hey, here we go. Yeah, let's do this. Y'all ready? 1, 2, 3. In times of test, let no harm beset me, oh my Lord, oh my Lord.
Discovery tonight. Did you discover you're in love with Janine Pirro? Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Excuse that last joke. It's not very funny, actually. But it is Sunday, the 17th of August, and we are pressing forward to oblivion? Who knows? But it's not good. It's really not good. And David and I were very pessimistic last week. And I don't know if we'll be any better tonight. So if you're unfamiliar with this channel, as usual, this is Divided We Stand on YouTube. We ask that you become a subscriber. We are not monetized, which just means you're not going to see any commercials when you watch. Isn't that great? You don't have to watch any of that bullshit. Also means that Joey keeps saying the volume has to come up. My volume is pretty high, so I'll put it up a little higher. But all right. So anyway, yes, we do not monetize. We don't have the type of subscribership that could, push us over and like that. There's just no reason for it. So you should enjoy this. Okay, YouTube won't. Also, we are on Facebook. We have a group page there, very, very popular. And we'd like you to consider becoming a member there. There we do have a lot of members, but that's not monetized. We're not, looking for anything either way. So please get involved. We are just facilitators. We're not bosses. So we'd appreciate if you become a member. So anyway, I'd like to introduce my good friend, co-host, educator, podcaster, former musician, all-around funny guy. And here he is, our David Price. Dave.
Hey, Brian.
Tell
Hey,
us
Brian.
something that can make us feel good.
I don't know that we're going to get there with that. Again, hey to everybody. What I discovered was I have for the first time tonight, I have comments running. So that's kind of cool.
No shit. Maybe
on the it's a new thing.
Cam.
Yeah, it's something new. So I mean, you could say it before, but they came up. Now they stay up the whole time. So
by the way, somebody just commented on my T-shirt, which was nice, and that is, of course, Anthony. Thank you, Anthony from Texas. But if you'll know, some people don't catch it because it says Frenchie, Dachshund, and Terrier, of course, or obviously stands for fuck Donald Trump.
That's one possibility. They're also. It's interesting that Brian was able to get that T-shirt, which says, fuck Donald Trump, but also that they're actual pictures of three of the girls he dated before he got married to Ronnie. Right. So that's kind of a good way to.
Well, I have nothing wrong with dating dogs. I love dogs, so that's.
I know that. You've dated some. I've seen them.
All right.
All right. So anyway, I'm going to pick. We're going to go a little different tonight. Normally, we start with three things, and we're going to start. And normally, you get to pick. Tonight, we're going to start with three things, but I'm going to pick, and then I'll tell you what I pick instead of you.
Okay.
All right, so what do we got going on?
And this may relate to what you're going to say there, too. So.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. Basically, here in D.C. right now with Trump, there's hundreds of stories, of course, and they actually happen hourly. But probably the big three would be the federal crackdown on crime in Washington, D.C. Second would be the whatever the hell happened yesterday with the Trump-Putin Summit, or Friday with the Trump-Putin Summit in Alaska, and this continuing whatever it is with trade war. Now we're back. We're going to do this with China. We're not going to do this with China. We're going to do this with somebody. Who knows? Anyway, since Veg was kind enough to ask about my perspective on DC police, I am going to start there tonight, and I'll give you what I see. Now, there are two sites that I visit regularly that I worry about because they're really good people there. One has been running for 44 years. I mentioned it on the show before. It doesn't have an official name, but we all call it the 24/7 Peace Vigil. And it's in Lafayette Park. It is as close to the White House as you can get and still be in the park. It has been there for 44 years, and people are saying, what, how? And it's a confusing kind of thing. It's not legal, but it's not illegal. But when Reagan was president, they worked out kind of a deal that said, okay, we'll let you have this place, but you've got to have somebody there 24 hours a day. If we find it unattended, we can remove it. And that's happened, I think, twice, maybe something happened. But I mean, they're there during hurricanes, snow blizzards, it doesn't matter what. But the tricky thing is, if you pull the night duty, you cannot sleep because there's a prohibition for sleeping in Lafayette Park. So yeah, that's kind of, you're there. So the night crew sits and talks to each other because of course they don't have visitors, and that's one place I go regularly. And I was very surprised, to be honest with you, Brian. In the first term of Trump, he made no effort to shut that down. Now, it is true that it is a world peace vigil. When it started, it was directly against nuclear proliferation. It's branched out, and basically it takes the side of the underdog in most cases. The other place is relatively new. It started on May 1st of this year. and it is called Flare, and it is a 4-tent setup right outside Union Station, which is the main train station in Washington, D.C. So it's very visible from that. And the group there did get a permit, but again, the agreement is they staff it 24 hours a day. They're right now, they are probably better staffed than vigilance because that's the common enemy right now. That's the big enemy, Trump. But of course, now the police vigil has decided, as it should, it waited. Now they have taken Trump on the bad side of the world, which he is. And so they're both being directed to Trump. But right now they both stand. So I went down, I'll do Union Station first. And I'm sure some of you have seen the National Guard vehicles did a full blockade of Union Station. Six vehicles actually impeding egress and entrance to the driveway for the station. Of course, what do they care? When I went down there on Friday, I guess, Thursday, Friday, whatever. It was day after that first one. And there were, Brian, in one little central area, 20 officers representing 4 different organizations: National Guard, Metro Police, City Police, and DEA. So the point is, that was proof positive if you need it. It's a multi-organizational operation. They're bringing everybody in. I did ask the people what how the reaction was between two. They said that all they did, meaning the National Guard, people came up and asked to see their papers, and they saw them, and then they proceeded to go away. What the big focus was this week was going in with bulldozers and just tearing down every homeless encampment you can find. Now, there were people who had whatever valuables they had, whatever you could have out on the street, and those valuables are now gone forever because they were in the tent. If you weren't carrying them, they just bulldozed it down, said it was trash, and gone. Trump is on record as saying, we're going to take them far, far away. What's that? Okay. One of the things that I've been stressing recently, and I'm going to continue to stress, is it's not so matter what you do, although that's important. It's why you do it and how you do it. So we know that every time that Trump does something, it doesn't matter whether it's good or bad, because the why is going to be wrong of why he's doing it. And the how is going to be wrong because there'll be no humanity in it.
Right.
Okay, so we know that. So that's what we're saying, Veg. It's an ongoing situation. It changes hourly. One of the things that really upset people, that could have been a tinderbox for some kind of violence, on 14th and U, which for those who don't know, that is the area, once was the area that was destroyed in 1968 after Martin Luther King was assassinated. That was the scene of the riots. But over the years since then, it's grown up to be the entertainment area. So the 930 Club, which is the most famous club now existing, is in that area. Bohemian Caverns, which was a big jazz club, was in that area. A lot of restaurants. So it's a visited area. So the police decided to set up a roadblock stopping every car that came through. Every car.
Shit.
So what does that mean? Well, it means they're testing out certain things. What are they testing out? How much could they do in D.C.? And they can do a lot because, of course, D.C. is not a state. Donald Trump does control the National Guard in Washington, D.C. There are some provisions that we know he won't follow. He's already extended past the time he can do it without congressional approval. So and you also, I don't know if how many of you noticed this, it is going to expand and get worse because Ohio, West Virginia, and there was a third state that escapes me now, are sending National Guard tomorrow here to join the D.C. National
I'm not surprised that Ohio's going to send West Virginia
no,
also.
I
Near
don't
the
get. No,
border
it's not that.
states
But
and-
Brian, there's no friggin' reason for them to be here. I
Right.
live here. Okay. Now, is it bad? Yes. No. Well, of course they've got crime, but in 15 years, and I think anyone who knows me knows that I'm not. I'm not the stay-at-home type. I've been all over the city. I've been in what are considered the worst districts. I worked there, South Carolina. That's the one. Thank you, Veg. And now, would I go? Well, I live in one of the richest areas in America right now, in Arlington. I don't go outside at 3 a.m. in Arlington. Why would you? Right? So, I mean, again, are there safe areas? The mall is extremely safe. I've never heard the mall area, which is where most tourists go. You don't hear of anything. I know when I was in Eastern Europe recently, in every city, every time we stopped, pickpockets, 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 warning them. Haven't heard of anybody getting their pocket picked. But of course, this is Trump making his stand. And it's not just for here. He's pushing it here so that he can also do Chicago, so he can do Atlanta, so he can do New York, so he can do LA, so he can do any big Democratic city. What is maybe, as I say, is frightening is that there's going to be an incident. There has to be.
Well, eventually, you have that many people there.
And
there's
now we've already
there.
seen one that is a laughing stock of the world. So they had a stop, as I said, at that 14 and U, and a guy, just a guy, was there and thought it was a stupid thing, and he hollered out to some of the officers, this is a dumb, stupid thing, and he proceeded to throw a sandwich at an officer. The assailant has been charged with a felony, which the charge could be up to 10 years for assaulting an officer. Now, I've eaten a few sandwiches in my time. I've made a few sandwiches in my time. In fact, as recently as dinner tonight, I made a cheese sandwich. And I really don't think that cheese sandwich is going to do much damage to people. I really don't. Even if your bread's hard. Of course, they're going to make an example.
Has anybody ever died from a head of lettuce being thrown at them by the chance?
I don't know about that, but I've never heard of death by sandwich.
Death by sandwich. Well, mayonnaise, you get it in your eye, you could pretty much.
Well, that's still not too
hurt somebody.
But here's where it gets even worse, Brian. So, in this incident, he throws the sandwich. Of course, it creates a stir. He said, "Yeah, I threw the sandwich." I mean, he didn't try to run. He didn't. He said, "Yeah, I threw the sandwich." Was taken to headquarters, processed, booked, sent home. But see, that didn't serve the purpose. So 20 officers representing three different organizations. 20 officers went to this gentleman's house to what? Arrest him, since he's already been arrested? But it was a great photo op, they thought. The difference is they don't think. 20 officers and an assailant with a sandwich is overkill. And that's what it's being looked at here. It's not being looked at, oh, God, I can't do that. Oh, God, So already we've got the absurd, we've got the fear, and it was announced on Friday. Again, we don't know. Right currently, the National Guard are not carrying weapons. Now, here's the thing. But they're in the trucks that are nearby. Okay. Friday, it was announced that beginning this week, National Guard will probably be armed. And that's when the true danger starts. So is it bad here? Absolutely. Should it be bad here? No. And again, just like the sandwich, and just like Trump perverts everything that he touches, thinks about, dreams of, or whispers, the way this got instituted. Are you aware of the incident that prompted this to get instituted?
At this moment, no.
It's something that Trump has wanted to do forever, and actually, he wanted to do more than that. He actually wanted to shoot the protesters in Lafayette Square on that time when he went and held the Bible upside down and all the things he did. Well, anyway, what happens is, as we all know, Elon Musk brought a bunch of kids in, and they were to save money by cutting the federal budget. Okay. And of course, that didn't sit real well with some people, as it shouldn't. And they did some research, and they found this kid. Literally, I don't even think he's 21 yet. But anyway, and they did research on him and found out that his media name was Big Balls. Okay.
Right. It's the one with the one that was he got his ass beat or something.
Right. So Big Balls is responsible, as near as they can tell, for 216,000 people's jobs being in jeopardy. Now, even if he's 21, even if he's 22, what a 22-year knows about cutting government, I don't think is much. So here's the story. Now, it gets a little sketchy, Brian, so stay with me just for a minute. Big Balls and a girl. Don't know lady friends, girl, don't know anything about it. We're in this one area at 3 a.m. And Big Balls ends up getting assaulted. Now, apparently it did have something to do with a carjacking. But of course, when Trump's involved and MAGA's involved, they're going to change the story. So one of the stories they tried to put out was that Big Balls rushed to a scene where another young lady was being carjacked. You know, the hero, Superman hero. Not true. Not one of the word of that true. So they said, okay, that one didn't work. Let's throw out another one. So this next story that circulates here is that they weren't going to do anything to Big Balls, but they beat him up, and he was bloodied. I mean, they beat him pretty good when they found out he was Big Balls, right? So they were striking a blow for Trump and MAGA. There's a problem with that. The two people that were charged, and there could have been a group as many as 10. The two people were charged were a 14-year-old male and a 14-year-old girl. I don't know of any 14-year-old in D.C. that has followed the Elon Musk, Doge, Trump story well enough to know anything about Big Balls. Lie too. Possible story why they were there. Area is a place that drug exchange can be made. At 3 a.m., are you out looking for drug? I mean, who knows? But the idea of it is one single person prompted Trump to do this. Now, again, he was just looking for the excuse, and he found it. Big Balls, I guess, probably said, gee, I got beat up. Maybe that wasn't a good thing. We don't even know why. We don't know what he said. Now, should you be able, in theory, at 3 a.m. to visit anywhere you want in the world? Brian, how many places would you guess in Bridgeton, which is very small, 20,000? Roughly how many neighborhoods would you not go into at 3 a.m.?
2.
Okay. And and Washington, D.C. has more people, right? I mean, it doesn't matter where you are. You know, I get scared to death in Indiana cornfields. I keep thinking children of the corn out there. So is there a danger? Yes. Is it what Trump said? No. Can anybody stop him? We'll have to see. Currently, it's the courts again, right there. Now, the other thing is, the last thing I will say about this, because I think one of the nice things about living here in Washington, D.C., is you get to talk to all sides. And I make it a point to talk to the officers. I did it at Union Station. I did it at the White House. I've found, and again, I'm not a fan of authority. We know that. But I've found the Secret Service that I've dealt with over the years, the Park Service, which I've dealt with over the years, the Metro Police that I've dealt with over the years, have been very professional about things, very good about things. And they're doing, and they say this, well, they're doing their job. Well, but it's not like what the Nazis said. I mean, we're headed there, but we're not there yet. So, if you're doing, if you're told to go stand guard somewhere, you go and stand guard somewhere. Okay. And eventually, hopefully, a situation won't break out. But I don't see any way, if this keeps up for a month, I don't see any way it won't.
Well, don't you think that, given this situation, that we're headed to another Kent State?
Oh, I don't think there's any question about that. It's a question of where will it be, who will it be, why will it be,
and somebody who's innocent. I mean, they're all going to be innocent, but some little kid's going to get something's really going to go wrong. And then
The question,
at that
of course,
point,
the question is, I know people, and I'm sure you do too, that if for some reason, okay, they turn around anyway. If you were white in a black neighborhood buying drugs, they wouldn't say you shouldn't buy drugs. They would say, "Oh, you shouldn't be with those black people," right? If it was a child who was out for some reason, you shouldn't have a child out that late. I mean, there's always these excuses.
Excuses for pedophilia. You know, I mean, these people are turning their heads to what's going on with the Epstein case.
Of course. But anyway, the last thing is some humor. So I will bring some humor into this a little bit. I've mentioned before my granddaughter and my grandson, but my granddaughter, very special. Of course, all our grandchildren are special. I'm very proud of her because she speaks her mind. She speaks up. She takes whatever comes to her in that way. The best way, I think the bravest thing that I've seen her do is wear a Support Trans Kids t-shirt to an Alabama high school. That's
something in Alabama, that's for sure.
Yeah. And so she's that way, and she's known as the weirdo. She's fine with that. But he got a hold of him and said, "Grandpa, you got to stop." I said, what are you talking about, honey? And she said, "You're going to get hurt. You're going to get arrested. You're going to be put in jail, or maybe even killed. And you're old." The crime was her last thing. Well, when you're 17 and your grandfather's 73, I guess that serves as old. But what I really laughed about, it was kind of funny. So I said, "Honey, I love you very much. I did a couple times not go. In fact, I didn't go to January 6th, which is probably good in a way because she asked me not to go and I didn't. But now that's a whole different thing. It's a whole different world and I have to be out there." But she said, "Okay, Grandpa." She started thinking about it. She said, "Okay, but if you do, you got to go buy a MAGA hat. Because then if something happens, you can just put that on your head and pretend." And I got thinking about that. I said, that's pretty creative, right? And also, I can go undercover. So today, I'd like to announce officially on Divided We Stand in our 900 and what show?
290th show.
290th show, that I am now the proud owner of a dark MAGA hat. I couldn't do the red thing. I just couldn't do it. But I have the official Elon Musk dark MAGA hat, which I will carry with me. So if I ever need to go undercover, because a couple times I've been confused with.
You just go dressed as Kyle Rittenhouse
with the other side. Well, I think I told. I don't know if I told the show or not. I wear usually every day. I wear an anti-Trump T-shirt or
yes, you do.
Some
and
stamp.
We've seen that almost every show.
I do that every day. Is that something I can do? I had one on, and it was a homeless dude who I had seen before, and I figured he was a veteran, and he was. And I come to it. But the shirt, Brian, it had on the top, it had "When Tyranny Becomes Law," then it had this big picture, and this is "Rebellion Becomes Duty." Okay. And the picture was a cross between kind of a patriot and a pirate. So I usually, you could give away, honestly, guys, I could give away, if I gave $5, $5. If I gave $5 to every homeless person that I encountered every day that I'm on the streets, I would be out more than $100. That's every day. Gary, just for you, I'm going to show the hat at the end of the show. So stay tuned, just for you doing that.
Everybody's going to wait now to the end.
Yeah. So
it's a teaser.
I walk up to this guy. I had a couple bucks. I said, I'll give him a couple bucks. And I walk up to him, and he says, "Man, I like your T-shirt." I didn't think anything about it because a lot of people say that. But here's what he said. "I can tell you're one of us." And then I said, "Okay, where's this conversation going to go?" And what he thought, and it was interesting because that is something, right? Remember, there's no anti-Trump. It's tyranny. He had been involved with J6. And he thought that I was one of the ones who thought that the government is tyrannical and Donald Trump is the answer. So it's very interesting. And what I say all that to, man, now I got the hat. And now I go deep into those things and see. Smiling and joking, but the serious part is it's something bad. And it's not necessarily going to happen in Washington, D.C., But right now, that is ground zero.
Right, wherever you have a protest, you could have another protest in Ohio, which they had, by the way, in Columbus recently.
Yes.
I could see. Maybe it's because personally, I lived in Ohio for 4.5 years, and I saw the demographics, political demographics in Ohio, where you had basically 4 cities that were liberal, and then the farmers who were just dead ass Republican, right wing, the worst you could find. And when you look back at Kent State, and we're talking 1971, you're not surprised. Everybody thought it was going to be Berkeley. What was going to be the big change? There's going to be something real. There were a lot of things at Berkeley, obviously, at the campus, but
Right.
But the fact that it happened, of all places, Kent State. You know what I mean?
Well, but you know what, Brian? That's, I think you're very astute with that, because you know why it's not going to happen in Washington, or why it might not. Well, let me do that. I'll tell you why it won't happen in Arlington, Virginia. There's no MAGA. They have to come from somewhere.
They have to come here.
Now, the same thing in Washington, D.C. There's no MAGA. So it's not going to be MAGA that does it. But when you have armed troops, and
or if you have armed troops who are not, again, we don't know what troops in the future. It may not just be the National Guard, Dave. It could be Kyle Rittenhouse, and they say, well, just get those assholes, and we're not responsible for what Kyle does, except when Bruce Schrader wants to let him free.
Well, we know for a fact that ICE is taking just about anybody who can walk.
Right. For $100,000?
We know that Dean Cain, the fat Superman now, has joined. All right.
Those motherfuckers mask up when they wouldn't do it during COVID. You tell me what's wrong there.
Well, we the whole thing. So, first of all, what do we know as we leave that kind of segment? Well, Washington, D.C., one of my favorite movies of all time is a movie from the 50s called The Thing, and then in parentheses, From Another Planet. And that movie ends with this warning: keep watching the skies. Everybody, keep watching the skies. So it's about an alien kind of invasion. This thing is keep watching Washington, D.C.
Right.
Because as D.C. goes, so goes the nation in terms of fascism. This is Berlin,
1933.
30 in the 1930s. Washington, D.C. is now Berlin. The other thing,
I think it was the last day, even 34 or 33 in June, is when all the shit. So there's always like one date. For some reason
there'll be a date, right? Now, for anybody who says, "Well, Trump's not that big," it will be fascinating to see. We know that. Donald Trump has taken over the Kennedy Center. That's fact. He is now in charge. He is the person. No president has ever even considered that. No president even thought, I have time to do that. He did.
Right.
We know that his picture and Melania's and J.D. Vance and Vance's wife hangs in the most prominent place it can hang, in the Kennedy Center. Been there and seen it. We know that there are 2 bills can be put in front of Congress. One is to name the concert hall the Melania Trump Concert Hall. And the other is to name the Kennedy Center, rename the Kennedy Center, the Donald J. Trump Center. So in his first real effort, besides firing everybody on the board to get his own people in, he announced, and I don't know if you caught that last week, he announced the 5 winners of this year's.
Right. One of them, of course, was Sylvester Stallone.
Sylvester Stallone, who was a big. Gloria Gaynor, which I find interesting.
Yeah.
There's a fascination with MAGA, with gay disco acts. Village People and Gloria Gaynor. I Will Survive is one of the national anthems for lesbians. They need their anthems. I'm not saying that, but it's just ironic that Macho Man, Trump, Kiss, which again. I'm not going to comment on it other than this. Paul Stanley and Gene Simmons have both spoken out against Trump, but the official word is from them and the band is, we are honored and we will accept. Now, I'm not saying they shouldn't. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that's...
Well, you can't, you can say that. This is what politics does. You have people who are willing to sell their souls to do horrible things, like Pam Bondi, and
the whole group,
Kash Patel,
and people say, oh, that's terrible. Kiss should have refused, or Gloria Gaynor should have. She's already accepted. Of course, Stallone's going to accept it.
Oh, by the way, if I may add,
Oh
this may
yeah,
come as a shock to you, but I believe Sylvester Stallone's going to have a new film out, and believe it or not, he is, I believe, going to be playing a boxer.
really,
Yeah.
that would be so out of character. No, and
Okay.
now I have to say that I try to whenever I can. I mean, remain above the fray, but you can't. This sucks us all in. I honestly liked, and I still will always like the movie Rocky, but I kind of like Stallone's
I bet you haven't
character.
watched it in the last 5 years.
What?
Bet you haven't watched it in the last 5 years.
Oh yes, I have.
You have? Oh my God.
For my grandchildren.
Adrian.
So, yo, Adrian. But
It's like Stella.
I mean, he's just fallen just because. But again, if you look, the guys that went, James Wood, the Hollywood people.
Yeah, well, none of them are a Brando. Let's put it that way. None of them.
Well, that's true, and also all of them are old.
Right.
So, and it was interesting.
Really old.
I thought this was an interesting comment a columnist made today. They said that Kennedy Center honor would make sense in 1986.
Right.
But 2025?
Right.
And here's the other thing, and I'll end with this on this segment. Everybody just sit here for a second and think about this, what I said. On America's 250th birthday, the odds are that the President of the United States will be Donald J. Trump. And that's the America we'll be celebrating. And he's already announced that there will be a UFC fight on the White House lawn as part of that celebration.
Dave, what the fuck has happened to this country?
Brian, I'm going to take another thing. All Donald Trump has done, is this. He has made it okay to say the things that people thought before. That's all. America's never been great. Come on.
Right, but it's
No,
never
go
had the
ahead.
point where the powers behind them actually succeeded all the way, and it looks like
Well,
they've succeeded.
I can make
'Cause
a
he doesn't
strong
even
argument.
know anything about the
I can make
Kennedy
a strong
Center or
argument.
anything.
I can make a very strong argument that the founding fathers did not give a shit about democracy, and also they were the first oligarchs. So it's always been a sham. The difference is the image, and we all know that that's more important than the reality. The image was good. Donald Trump has taken the image and soiled it through a pile of shit and allowed people to say whatever they want, and that's okay, and do pretty much whatever they want. And you have someone like Elon Musk, the world's richest man, making the most horrible statement one could make. Empathy is the destruction of Western civilization. No, Elon, you're the destruction of Western civilization. And so when you say what happened, that's my take on it. I defy anyone to tell me what year America was great. Gary's got a thing, bread and circuses. Certainly there are really good historians right now who are laying in the groundwork that what's happening in America is what happened in Rome and other places, the great civilizations. None of them last now, right? The British Empire, we got that gone. Everything's gone.
Although one could argue vicariously that the British Empire kind of just became the American Empire, so to speak.
That would be a realistic assessment.
Right.
Yeah, I wouldn't argue with that.
But that's
So, Brian,
just putting down.
we're going to turn it back to you. You're our Russian expert. What do you make of whatever the hell happened in Alaska?
Well, first of all, the very fact that he brought out a red carpet disgusts me for Putin. The fact that it was in Alaska, I think he did that for many, many reasons, but one of them being that, if he brings him to Washington to protest, you'd probably have 1 million people protesting out there, especially those people like myself who are on the side of Ukraine. So he decides to do it in Alaska. And I'm sure the Russians had some hand in that too, because as Putin said, it's only like 1 mile in between those two islands, bordering islands. So it was the perfect place, and it was a former territory of Russia. But look, there's no surprise there was going to be no ceasefire. In fact, the only thing that's really interesting about any of these summits will be what will happen with Zelensky, and thankfully, the world leaders from Europe are going to be there. Although I kind of think, and I know I'm jumping ahead here, Dave, but I discussed this with Ronnie about this, and I'm thinking that, you know, he tried to humiliate, he and Vance tried to humiliate Zelensky. Well, now he can't do it because Zelensky's got reasonable people with him. But the question is, will he still try to do it? Because I believe it's still going to be at the White House. And then he'll just tell them to leave or something like that. I don't know. I am more concerned about this than what happened with Putin. Now, Putin, we all know, and most of the pundits have been saying that this was just a windfall for Putin because it put him on this, you know, the main stage of the world. And remember, most Russians are hook, line, and sinkered into what Putin's saying about the West and about what's happening in the war in Ukraine. So I think it was more for Putin, and he did it for me. It's just another favor, Dave. We know that Trump's always tried to, you know, have Trump Tower in Moscow. He may have sealed the fate of that by doing what he did. I don't like it. It just shows you how dark, Dave, how dark politics are. And it's even darker than we thought, at least in my opinion. It's really dark when you have Vladimir Putin there. It was essentially you can compare them this or that, but the bottom line is they will do anything to get what they want. And that's bad news for everybody because now you've catapulted Putin back onto the world stage. He's going to be just as acceptable as the pedophiles are to the Republican Party, you know. And again, you asked me last week, am I more pessimistic or optimistic? You know, what am I to do, Dave, after seeing that? And then, you know, I'm trying to get that out of my head. And then who do I see? Jeanine Pirro saying it. This you know, bullshit response to the guy with the sand, which I know we're going back on the sand. You know, I'm just sick of it. It's very dark. It's very, very dark. And that's why, by the way, I donated $50 to Gavin Newsom, because that's going to be a big movement in California, should Texas, and they will go through with it. The only question now is, I know I'm jumping into different areas, but
no. Well,
this is what the Supreme Court will say. Well, in Texas it's fine, and in California it's not, and then you're going to have violent. You know, Dave, it's really dark. These are dark days.
Let me ask you a question. Why should we fight to keep America as a country?
I think that's just out of habit. You know, you have this idea that we were this thing.
Notice the word that you used, and I'm not picking on you. Everybody used it, the idea, but the reality was something else.
You're right. Look, and that's that book that you lent me. I still have it up there. I haven't finished it with, you know, the strange things that have gone on in government that we don't know about.
And you know, we have a tendency, and it's understandable. We have a tendency to, you know, group ourselves. America certainly, in even some of its endeavors, okay, it turned out to be on the right side of slavery. It took a long time, and it wasn't a united country, and it didn't work out real well.
And you do know that the Republican Party is, probably the Department of Education, they're trying to call them like indentured. That was indentured servants and all that kind of shit.
Yeah. So
semantic fiat.
Yeah, and we were on the right side, whether we chose or not, in World War II. Now I question whether we were the right side of some others. I don't think we were on the right side of Cuba. Fidel made overtures to America. America rejected those overtures because they wanted Batista to stay in.
Right, but generally we would do the right thing in most cases.
I'm not so sure about that. Did they do the right thing? And I'm not. You're saying one side. I'm not.
Right.
I'm going at the side, not you. Did they do the right side about the indigenous people? Did they do the right side about African Americans? Did they do the right side about
Well, they
women?
tried to. There was enough
Tried
pressure
what?
to try. The people tried to make it right. Some people did.
Some, and that's the
Look, I'm
point.
not arguing with you. Yeah, it's just
No.
This
No, I
thing's
think there's-
excrement all the way through.
I think there are two views, and but the difference between the two views is this: if you are the view that you were expressing, which is probably the majority view in America, then this is a time for fear, for disappointment, for all those other things that would be when you're let down. Okay, but if you take the other view, the only thing that's different is Trump has been able to bring all this together at a time when we should know better.
Well, I'll tell you what. If somebody like Kyle Rittenhouse becomes senator, then I say, yeah, you got to split this fucker up because I'm not going to deal with this. And we're getting close to that point because essentially
And that's what
we have people like that.
Okay, think about what you said. Okay, so we have Texas.
By the way, I'm sorry for all the curse. I usually don't go this far, but I get pissed off. It was a
I like
bad
when you-
week.
you
and
know,
I'm
I
very
like when I
fucking
can-
angry.
But there's nothing wrong with that. So you got Texas, who's going to do 5, right? Give them 5 more senators.
Right.
California said they can get 10. Texas now says Abbott is. I don't know if you saw that today. He's thinking of calling a session to do even more redistricting. And here's the sad thing, Brian. And I got into a couple fights about this because I think people misunderstood what I'm saying. By having this battle now, we have nothing. We have to fight back with everything we have. We have to.
And how we do it is going to change.
And so what I'm trying to say now, I'm saying at this point is I just going back on my own thing. What is important right now is the what. The why and the how have gone out the window. You just got to stop them. Now, the problem though is that in doing that, you're going to take America further away from where it should be. You have to do it. See, don't get me wrong, but by doing that, America's,
Well, look, didn't we add states? Can't we just get rid of some of them? If it means that we are going to, because it's the concept's important.
Interesting enough, the answer isn't that simple. For example, it is a virtual impossibility with government the way it has been structured to get rid of the Electoral College. Virtually impossible. Nice
right now,
thoughts.
right? Because it's a
No, with any time, at any time. It's just too difficult. Because think about this. And this is something I think we need to keep in mind too. The Democrats are no prize. They're better than the other side.
Well, compared to them, they're a big prize.
That's exactly the case. And the Democrats have some of the best and the brightest.
Yes.
Buttigieg, AOC,
Jamie Raskin, White House. Bernie Sanders. Sanders isn't a Democrat, but it's
but he is for all practical purposes.
Right.
So I mean, Buttigieg. I mean, the list goes.
Buttigieg is fantastic, but he's the last guy to be elected.
And there you are. So it's the seeds of destruction have been planted.
Yes.
They were planted. I'm going to submit they were planted the day the country became the country. They were. But they haven't. Nobody has. No one.
Human condition.
Exactly. But nobody has watered them like Donald Trump has watered them.
And maybe we're at fault because we didn't take it seriously enough. A lot of
people
they don't vote.
I mean, look, I'm the first one to admit when dystopian. I've loved dystopian literature since I was able to read books.
Until you're in it, for real.
But yeah, exactly. But I never, Brian, when I read 1984 for the first time, Brave New World, even as recently as A Handmaid's Tale, I did not really think it could happen here.
I didn't either.
Really,
you and I are in the same boat.
And I'll take it even a step further. If you could have told me it would happen in 3 months, I would have said, and I'll take it even a step further. If you could say it could happen in 3 months with Donald Trump as president, I would have said you're absolutely just gone. There's no way. And I was proven wrong on all of that. And again, it's not about me and it's not about Donald Trump, although it is. But he's. You've kind of for a long time you've been saying, and you've been right. Kind of the Teflon Don. Nothing seems to stick. We got him, and I wasn't arguing against you. But I really thought, okay, I'm not gonna disagree with Brian.
If I may interrupt, what I'm saying is, and I think both of us were naive at this, and that we don't really realize the dark power behind them. And we can go back and look at certain points with the contract with America in '93 and whatever, but that power behind them, and then you've mentioned this with how it was always there and the people were always there, and it's not really Trump, and you're right but it's given the ability of these Trumpers to vicariously become the power in the country.
Well, yeah, because they joined with some other
class. The kids are in control, not the student. Anyway, it's a good analogy.
No, that is a good analogy. Well, and the other thing is, what it's done. It's they say politics creates strange bedfellows, and there's some truth to that. But I mean, if you think about it, on the one side, on the Trump side, you've got Trump, who is unique and different, but you've got the oligarchs, right? For the most part, you've got what was the Republican Party. You've got every hate group in America. You've got the Christian nationalists. You've got the other organizations like the Catholic Church who don't endorse and stand away, but many Catholics, because they've been indoctrinated to think of one of the ultimate sins as abortion. And I was talking to actually somebody from Turkmenistan or whatever. I don't mean to make fun of the country,
right?
But one of the stands, and he was very, very bright, and we had a really good conversation about things. And what I liked about him is he saw both what's good and bad in America, right? And it was interesting to hear his view, where I think so many of us, we were kind of captive of the myth. And that is true. I mean, and you talked earlier about the human condition, and that plays into this. For example, I will submit to anyone to entertain this, that religion was created for two purposes, neither of which are bad in and of themselves. One purpose was to explain the inexplicable.
And to deal with existential dread.
But that's still part of that. That's part of the inexplicable. Why must we die? All those questions. And the second one that I don't think is stressed enough is to police the people. And what I mean by that is to establish a code that says,
or could you say control the people? I think that's
and there you are, right? So does that mean that all? No, I'm not attacking all Christians. But what I'm saying is, if you're talking about the Greek gods, it applies. If you're talking about the God of Israel, it applies. If you're talking about Muhammad,
right? But
applies.
That shit shouldn't fly today in the modern world for people like you and me. That shit doesn't fly, and yet we have to deal with it.
It does, because who wants to go against their grandma? Grandma believes. I mean, that's what it is. Grandma didn't know any better.
Yeah, but you don't, and I don't. Okay, and we know why.
I know because, like I said, I think there are other avenues. You've said it. It's one of your favorite sayings. You haven't said it much on the show, but I've heard you say it a number of times. You don't need a book to tell you how to react to people.
Right. It's so simple. Like, why do we need a book when we have our brains? Don't kick the old woman in the ass. Okay? It makes real good sense.
You know what, Brian?
Don't kick the puppy. Okay?
And see, this is where
either pet the dog or you kick the fucking dog. You got two choices, and it's pretty fucking easy. But for some people, it's not for some reason.
But see, I don't think it is as easy as you say. And what I mean by that is, I think a lot of people don't want to be bothered with making the choice, should they kick the dog or feed the dog. They want somebody to make it for them, and then they'll follow it.
Okay, a paid assassin then.
Well, I'm just right. I'm just saying. It's my personal bent is I am dangerously anti-authoritarian.
Right.
That is me personally. to a fault, and I have to admit that sometimes that's not the best way to be. But just there are many more people who believe that in order to live an ordered life, you must have authority, and they accept it. Such as Catholics believe, most of them believe in the idea of a pope. I don't know that so much, the infallible pope anymore. Many Americans believe, and I just had this the other day. It's been a while since I've heard this. He is the president of the United States, and you should respect him. And I said, I've never heard anyone say something more false than what you just said. Here's
the Fuhrer. We should respect the Fuhrer because he's the Fuhrer.
And yes,
you get a pass for that.
Yes,
that just was because basically he wears the uniform. That all of a sudden I have to bow down and kiss the ring, or because he's God, I've got to kiss the ring.
Yes, that's what they're saying, and they believe it.
But don't you see that's the vicarious thing with religious kooks? They're ready to kiss the ring.
But Brian,
what the fuck for?
I don't disagree with you, but what I'm saying is they disagree with you, and they don't see it as kissing the ring. What they want what many people want, they want an ordered society.
Well, that's what you're alluding to, essentially, what I was talking about with Fromm months ago, with freedom from and freedom to. They want freedom from something, and we want freedom to do something. And two different things.
Absolutely correct. And this is why I think, and we'll never know this, so it's pure speculation, but I'm gonna submit that my guess is, based on what I know, that the country is more divided today than it was at the time of the Civil War. I really believe that.
Right, and as you said, we're in a bigger mess because the lines, the way you draw them, it's not easy anymore.
There's not that way. And, if you do sit back, and it's hard to do, but if you can sit back, it is a tragedy of epic proportion. The damage that Donald Trump has allowed to happen, has caused to happen. I mean, families divided.
And we've yet to see the worst, because you already alluded to it tonight. Something's going to happen eventually.
Oh, no.
That wheat field is there, and that spark, it is there. And when it happens,
I mean, did you, in your wildest imaginations, and we're saying no, so this is speculation, but I would ask, did you ever think that people would endorse pedophilia?
Right.
If you endorse Donald Trump, you endorse the concept of pedophilia. Now, notice what I'm saying. I'm not saying he was a pedophile.
Right, but they're looking the other way from the situation.
But what I'm saying is he has now done actions with Maxwell, who basically what he's done.
And by the way, Dave, what if I were innocent and I knew I wasn't on those goddamn files and I knew I wasn't at the island or whatever, I would immediately say, release the whole goddamn thing. This is what I'm talking about, 2 + 2 logic. This is why he's fucking guilty. Because you fucking know if he was innocent, he'd just say, put him out there. I'll embarrass any motherfucker out there who's on that list, as it should be. But no, he's trying to hide it, which means he's on that fucking list. And we turn away from this lousy son of a bitch. You turn your head to it. And how do you call yourself a Christian? How do you call yourself a Jew? How do you call yourself a Muslim? Whatever you are, how do you call yourself anything but a fucking asshole if you're going to turn your face to that shit?
Well, human beings have been known from time to time to be hypocrites. And that's really what it is. You said it, Brian. You can't be any of those things and be a Donald Trump supporter. But the mind can play a lot of things.
I'm so fucking upset with that motherfucker.
Which rational thought, actually, and you've said this too, and we've talked about it, and I think you're absolutely right. Unfortunately, our emotions drive us more than our rational thought.
With me, it's my rational thought, but then it's amplified by my fucking emotions. I still know what 2 + you know that. I know what 2 + 2 equals.
You do. Do you really think the majority of people you know are governed by rationality?
No, you're right. Human beings are emotional. Anything can trigger them. Anything from 2 minutes ago. Again, we get into determinism. It doesn't matter. It's happening. And with all this craziness, I can start seeing a pattern in the static here, and the pattern is that they're gonna fucking lie. He lies, and then they lie. They're lying to themselves, and it's just a continuation. I see the continuum, and this is where I'll answer your question, which you originally was asking. Do we? It was rhetorical, but do we need to have America stay together as it was? Essentially, that's what you were saying.
Right. Exactly.
And at this point, there's a point where you say, no mas, no, it doesn't have to stay that way. And this is why do you think we entitled this Divided We Stand? Because you kind of felt where it was going 5 years ago. And by the way, this is 5 years and 290 videos later. That's a long fucking time for something you
All right,
plan to do for
we're
a
going to
year.
end on this. We're going to end on this tonight. You just give us our ending. It's a variation of what we normally do. For anyone who's first time show, we always end it this way. I ask the question, Brian answers, and then I answer it. And basically the question is some permeation of this. After all that happened this past week, are you more optimistic or less optimistic? We're going to change it a little bit. On the day Donald Trump took office, we all had our feelings about them.
He's actually a lot more chilled out than I am, Anthony. So I don't know.
Anthony, I'd have to.
Dave can get pissed, but he's not.
No,
I'm usually the one that's more emotional.
No, but what happens is, Brian, okay, on a scale of 1 to 100, with 100 being the most and 1 being the least, knowing what you felt, knowing what you feared about Trump when he took office the first time, where are you today? Give me a number.
I'm going to give you a number. It's just arbitrary, but
Exactly.
I think it's somewhere in the 80s. I think the reason why it's not 100 is because I know that there's some people. I'm obviously alluding to Kent State, where some people were so revolted. At some point, you've got to look at the roadkill and say, that's just too much, because you have to feel, you have to be hurt, and I think that maybe some of them will come over, but right now, again, looking at the Russian model, seeing what can happen, what has happened for 800 years there. There is a time when we can say all is lost, or who was the book that I wrote, Goodbye to the Past, or not Goodbye to the Past, Goodbye to all that. That was from the World War I thing. I'm ready. I'm almost at the point where I'm going to entitle my description of my life in America as Goodbye to All That. And it's very, very sad in a real sense, too. In a real sense, because it's the reality. It's like the reality that you're going to die. The Kubler-Ross stages and all that. It's going to happen. And you got to figure this thing out before you die, too. Because you got to come to grips with one thing, the truth. Because at some point when you start fading out, you got to be honest with yourself. I never would want to leave my existence not being honest with myself. That is, to me, that last moment of my life. And when I look at this country, I will not be able to be positive about it. I can't.
At this point.
At this point.
Right.
What do you believe?
Okay. I'm going to put myself maybe a little bit ahead of you. I'm going to say you basically we're talking about 82, 83. I'm going to be 85, 86 right now. Disillusioned versus when he first took office. Now, this is what I do. Everybody listening to this can say, it's rationalization, or they can say you're ducking it. At this point, things are so bad and dark that it doesn't really matter whether you think it can be made better or not. What does matter is, can you sit back and do nothing? Or can you do whatever it is you can do with very little chance to win in the long run? Mm-hmm. And that's where I am right now. I will continue to do whatever I can do. And I'm not trying to say, hero, hero, hero. But what I am saying is a variation of what you said. I have to answer to very few people in my life. I think I should, and I haven't always done well. I think I should answer to my wife. I think I should answer to my son. I think I should answer to my 2 grandchildren. But above all that, I have to answer to myself.
Right.
Because if I can't do the right thing, how can I expect anyone to do the right thing? And tonight, sitting here, the right thing for me, and I would suggest to anyone who is not a Donald Trump supporter, or Donald supporter, the right thing is to do everything that you can to stop him, realizing that stopping him is not going to be the panacea that some think. But we've used the analogy before of the head and the snake. You can use that one, or you could use the analogy of Harry Truman saying the buck stops here. Right now, the embodiment of evil, of everything that not only is wrong now, Brian, but has been wrong with the United States since its inception, is embodied in Donald Trump. There you are.
Right. And I guess we'll leave it there. And
sounds like a plan. We'll be back
in a week, and then
as my dad used to say, my Southern daddy, back, Lord willing, and the creek don't rise. And all I would say is, we're going to throw the Lord out of this one, and I will say this: that creek is rising. And you think, both literally, figuratively, you see that we have and it doesn't know. We don't know what it'll mean, if it'll make landfall in the United States or will be. We have a Category 5 and a FEMA
massive storm. It won't hit the states, but it's still massive enough to pay attention to.
And that's the idea. So, nobody's going to cut us a break just because we have a horrible president. Nature isn't. Other countries aren't. They're going to do everything they can.
Don't become like the Russians, because they gave up.
Well, and yeah, there comes a point. Well, I'll just say this.
Thank you.
Just for me, not anybody. You can't give up. I understand, okay? But the other flip side of that, and this is very important, also, is find ways to relax, because this thing is all around you.
Right.
And
do what you got to do.
I mean, go to the movies. However, almost all the movies now are representing Trump. I mean, you can't go to Superman for escapism, because it's all about American Donald Trump.
Or be with the one you love, and that's what it is,
Or the other thing, Brian says, we're not for money. If you feel that sending me $1.7 million, not one penny more or one penny less, would make you feel good, I will be willing to,
or at least give to Gavin Newsom and
to me, not to Gavin. All right, Brian.
All right,
talk
Dave.
to you later.
Great talk.
Bye.
Great show. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Good night.